Imagine if when you went to school, just because you couldn't focus or you looked a little different, you weren't taught all day long. This is a sad case for many special needs students. I know this because I have a little brother with Down syndrome who attends school, and this is just the sad truth. Just because you're different doesn't mean your educational needs shouldn't be met. Students with special needs should be given the proper resources, funding, and training to improve their education and life skills. I'm going to go over why having these proper resources, funding, and training can improve special needs students' lives. So our first point is resources. I have a quote from Western Governors University from Special Education, History, Resources, and Advice. The quote says, "In the court ruling of Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, it was ruled that segregation violated equal education opportunity. While this decision was based on the injustice of racial segregation, it established a broad understanding that all people deserve equal access to an adequate public education." So this means no matter who you are or what your limitations are, you deserve an education with resources. Resources have the right tools to help educate special needs students. They just have the right, different ways to teach. And because not everyone learns the same, so if they have different ways to teach students, it really helps them out. Resources can help target specific issues that special needs students need to learn. I have a quote from Jay Mattingly from Education for Children with Disabilities. The quote says, "Education, particularly inclusive education, is able to reduce discrimination through enabling children with and without disabilities to grow up together. Education gives children with disabilities skills to allow them to become positive role models and join the employment market, thereby helping to prevent poverty." So if we give these kids who need a little extra help, the help that they get, they can join society later and they can be more functionable and they can just improve their lives a lot more with these resources. Now that we've talked about how helpful resources are, let's talk about how training can also help. So, teachers often lack training for special needs students, but if they have the proper training, it can prevent abuse of these students. Because usually these kids are cute little kids, but if teachers don't know what they're doing, they can crush them, ruin their hopes and dreams, and they can get abused sometimes. I have a quote from Teachers' Knowledge of Special Education Needs and Disability Students from their Classroom Management Approaches from the World Journal of Education. The quote's from M.N.K.O. Ghazi. I probably butchered that. But the quote says, "It revealed teachers' lack of in-depth knowledge and inclusivity enacted in operational policies and their application and classroom management procedures and management of students with special education needs." That just shows that a lot of teachers don't get the training that they need to help with these students, and it causes problems. So if teachers get the training that they should have, teachers won't become overwhelmed and will know what to do in different situations, because usually special needs students, they kind of function on a lower level, so they can act like little kids sometimes, and that makes it tricky for teachers to help with stressful situations. Now that you've heard about how beneficial training is, let's talk about funding. So, funding makes it so schools can get the students' special needs met, like ramps and equipment. So I have a quote from 5 Problems Faced by Disabled Students in the Classroom, and that is from M. Nichols. Her quote says, "Schools cannot provide students with adequate conditions to move and study with convenience. For example, they lack ramps and elevators. Their doors are too heavy to open. Schools offer inaccessible washrooms and or transportation. It's hard for children with physical disabilities to simply open a door." So my little brother, he has Down syndrome, like I said earlier. He goes to a special school that are for kids who have all these different problems. I've been in before, and his school luckily has the funding that they need. That they have changing rooms, and they have a ton of physical therapy equipment. They even have a pool so they can help students who can't really move around at all. They can get some activity in, and they have wheelchair ramps everywhere, and it's just really awesome to see that the funding actually goes towards things that actually help the kids, instead of just sometimes they get wasted on dumb things like learning games, which helps some students, but physically it really is awesome to see that kind of stuff is in the schools to help the kids. And then funding will make educators' jobs easier since they can meet the needs of the students. I have a quote from Special Education sees historic boost in new funding. That's from C. Jones. The quote says, expenses can include services like one-on-one tutoring, occupational and speech therapy, behavioral therapy, and technology devices that help students communicate. So, for instance, my little brother has Down syndrome. They have him doing, he doesn't talk a lot, so he does speech therapy there with them. That really helps. He's starting to talk a little bit more. They also do physical therapy, so they've been trying to teach him how to walk around because he doesn't do that. And that's just really cool to see that, like, with proper funding, they can make a huge difference in these special needs kids' lives. And I've seen that firsthand, so I think it's really important that they get their funding. A counter argument to that, people think that kids with special needs, they're just dumb and they don't deserve an education. So I think that it's definitely important that they get their resources and the training and the funding that they need for them to improve their lives. So I've gone over why resources, funding, and training can improve special students' lives. And then now that you know about the proper resources and how they can improve their lives, you can now help advocate for equal treatment for special needs kids and that they can get the treatment and like the education that they deserve. Well, thank you for listening today.